Hi everyone, this is Helloangel.design. Today I'm going to show you how to make a sleeveless princessing dress. It's really beautiful. So I use this fabric to combine the dress, so you don't have to. You can use just one fabric to make your princessing dress, but if you have to, make sure you use a matching fabric. So this is how it look at the front, and for the back this is how it also look. Also, you can see the back is also combined with the same fabric. It's really beautiful. Has an invisible zipper at the center back and a belt, so you can make your belt longer or shorter. That totally depends on you. And I use a lace to design the lining. You don't have to. You can just fold your lining inside and hem it all around, but if you want it to more professional, just use the lace to design it. This is how it is. Please don't forget to subscribe. Make a comment down below if you have any questions, and let's get started. First thing that you have to do, this is my front fabric of my princessing. So what you're going to do, you take the front side of the princessing, you're going to put them together like this. And you take the other side, you do the same thing, put them together. You're going to pin it all the way down, and you come to this side, you pin it all the way down. So go ahead and pin them together. I have pinned it together. This is how it is. The next thing that you have to do, take it to your sewing machine, give it a top stitch all the way down. You come to this side, get a top stitch all the way down. My seam allowance is 1 centimeter. When you put your fabric together, make sure both fronts are facing each other. You can see that this is the front of my fabric. They are facing each other. Once you have done stitching, then you take your back. This is the back of the top that you're making. And this is the other side. This is the center back. This is the center back. You take the side of the princessing. This is the front of my fabric. Put them together. Make sure both fronts of the fabric are facing each other. Go ahead and pin it in place. You take the other side of the princessing. So put them together. Make sure both fronts are facing each other. Go ahead and pin it in place. I have pinned it together. The next thing that you have to do, take it to your sewing machine. Also go ahead and give it a top stitch all the way down. You come down to this side. You do the same thing. Go ahead and give it a top stitch all the way down. My seam allowance is 1 centimeter. So go ahead and top stitch. I have top stitch. This is how it is. So I will just turn inside for you to see. You can see that I snip around the seam allowance so that when you iron your dress, it lies very flat. Remember to always iron your dress when you're making. Don't just keep making and you don't iron it. It doesn't really look nice. So the next thing that you have to do, you're going to put the both shoulder seam together. You just put the both shoulder seam together, pin the both shoulder seam of your top. Once you have done pinning, take it to your sewing machine, stitch the both shoulder seam. My seam allowance is 1 centimeter. And then you take your lining. This is my lining. Put the both shoulder seam together. Make sure both front fabric are facing each other. And also go ahead and pin the both shoulder seam. Once you have done that, take it to your sewing machine, give it a top stitch. My seam allowance is 1 centimeter. So go ahead and top stitch. I have stitched the both shoulder seam together. I take it to my ironing board and I press the seam apart. Make sure you should do the same. I did the same thing with the lining. The next thing that you have to do, you're going to pull the both front fabric together. your front lining, your front made top, put them together like this. So I will just go ahead and pin around the neckline because I'm going to stitch the neckline first before stitching the armhole. So go ahead and pin them in place. I have pinned around the neckline. The next thing that you have to do, take it to your sewing machine, stitch it all the way down. Once you have done that, cut a little bit out from your seam allowance and then snip it all around. Once you have also snipped it all around, I am going to understitch the neckline. So first thing, let's go and stitch the neckline and I will show you how to do that. I have stitched the neckline. This is how it is, and I take my scissors and snip around the neckline. You can see how I do that. Make sure you should do the same. The next thing that we have to do, we are going to understitch the neckline. So what you're going to do, you're going to push the seam allowance, both the male fabric seam allowance and your lining seam allowance, you push it towards the lining like this. You're going to top stitch. So when you're top stitching the lining, not your made top. So you just push it towards the lining like this, and then you top stitch very close to the edge all around the neckline. So go ahead and stitch it all around. I have top stitch around the neckline. This is how it is. This is my stitches right here around the neckline. When you understitch it, the next thing that you have to do, you're going to turn your dress inside out. So once you have done that, we are going to stitch around the armhole. So when you understitch the neckline, you will notice that the lining will be shorter than the made fabric. It's okay because you understitch the neckline, so it pulls more of the fabric. So you just go ahead and pin them together like this. So go ahead and pin around the both armhole. Once you have done that, take it to your sewing machine and top stitch. Remember to snip around the curved edge, and also take it to an ironing board and press it very nice. It is very important to iron your dress when you're making them. So I'll go ahead and pin it all around, take it to my sewing machine and top stitch. I have stitched around the both armhole. This is how it is, and I also push my seam towards the bodies and I understitch the lining. You can do that, or you can decide not to understitch the armhole of your top that you're making. Before we put the side seam together, the next thing that you have to do, we are going to stitch our belt. So this is the belt I'm going to attach on the dress. But if you don't want to attach any belt on the dress, just go ahead and put the both side seam together and top stitch with 1 centimeter seam allowance. If you're going to attach a belt on your dress, what you're going to do, you take a measurement. The length of my belt is 38 inch by length. 38 inch by length. The width is 3 inch. If you're using centimeter, measure 96.5 centimeter by length. The width is 8 centimeter. So what you're going to do, put them together like this. You just go ahead and pin it all around. I have pinned it in place. This is how it is. Once you cut your belt, make sure you cut 2 pieces, not just one, because you are going to put each one on the side of the dress. So before you take it to your sewing machine and top stitch, you place your ruler like this and take your marker and give it a straight mark, like a diagonal, not just straight like this, a diagonal mark, and just do it like that. So when you're stitching, you're going to start from where you mark all the way down, all the way to the end. When you get down to this point, you are not going to stitch across. You just stitch it all the way to this end. Make sure to back stitch at the beginning, back stitch at the end. This is where we are going to turn the fabric inside out, and you will do the same thing on these other pieces. So go ahead and top stitch. I have top stitched my belt. I just turn it inside out and give it a nice press. Make sure you iron your belt once you turn it inside out. Remember, like I said, this is where I turn it inside out. The next thing that you have to do, you take your front top. This is the front top of this dress that you're making. From the side seam, measure inside 1.5 centimeter. And you come down to this side, measure inside 1.5 centimeter. Then you take one of your belt, you place it at that 1.5 centimeter. This is my 1.5 centimeter. Why do I measure 1.5 centimeter? So that you will be in a very safer place. Because when we are going to place our skirt on this top that you're making, we are going to take 1 centimeter. So to be in a safer side, measure 1.5 centimeter. Then you place your belt like this, and then you just go ahead and pin that in place. And then you come down to this side, you do the same thing. Place your belt. This is my 1.5 centimeter. Place it like this. Remember to separate your lining. Once you have done pinning, take it to your sewing machine, give it a top stitch all the way down. You come down to this point, give it a top stitch. Once you have done that, we can now put both sides seam together and top stitch. So go ahead and stitch your both belt together. I have stitched it in place. This is how it is. The next thing that we have to do, we are going to put the both side seam of the top together. Just go ahead and pin the both side seam together. I have pinned the both side seam together. Take it to your sewing machine, give it a top stitch all the way down. My seam allowance is 1 centimeter. So go ahead and top stitch. I have stitched the both sides seam together. This is how it finally looks. You can see that I place a pin right here because I will also take it to my sewing machine and just give it a little stitch all the way down right here, like about 1 centimeter. And I will do the same thing on the other side of the side seam. So this is how the front of our top bodies look right now. The next thing that you have to do, you take your skirt. So what you're going to do, you're going to put the pieces together. So this is my skirt. This is the back of the skirt. I pinned the both sides seam together. You can see that I also pinned this side. I pinned the both sides seam together. What I'm going to do, I will take it to my serger. I will just overlock the raw edges. And then I will come down to this side. I will overlock the raw edges. Once I am done with that, I will also take it to my sewing machine. I'm going to set the sewing machine to the longest stitch. I will just stitch it all the way down. I will do the same thing with the lining. So go ahead and stitch the both side seam of your skirt together. Set your sewing machine to the longest stitch and stitch it around the top of your skirt. Then we cannot gather it on the top dress that we are making. So go ahead and top stitch. I have stitched my skirt together. I have stitched the side seam, and I have also stitched my gather stitch thread on the skirt. You can see that I have already gathered my lining, so make sure go ahead and gather your lining. If you're going to pin your skirt on your dress that you're making, you will take your top. This is my top dress. This is the side seam of my dress. You put the side seam together, take your pin that in place. And I will go ahead and pin this also. This will be the center back. pin it in place. And then you come down to this side. Before you pin the side seam together, what you're going to do, you're going to gather it first. I have shown many times on my channel how you can gather your skirt. I'm going to pull the thread like this. I will pull it gradually all around. So go ahead and gather your skirt on your top dress that you are making, and then we can now take it to our sewing machine and top stitch. I have stitched my skirt on the dress, and I also do the same thing with the lining. I take it to my overlocker. I just overlock the both raw edges, both the made fabric and the lining, and I also overlock the center back of the dress. This is how it is once you stitch your skirt on your dress. The next thing that we have to do, we are going to measure the center back. We want to measure where our zipper is going to end. If you want to put a zipper at your center back all the way down, just go ahead and do that. But if you want your zipper to end at a particular point, take your measuring tape and measure it and place a pin or a marker right there. From the very top of the neckline, I measured that 9.5 inches. If you're using centimeters, measure 22.4 centimeters. And you also do the same thing with the lining. So what you're going to do, you're going to first of all stitch the center back. Put them together like this. Put the both waistline. This is the waistline. Put them together. Just put the both fabric together. Make sure they are matched. Take your pin. Pin that in place. And this is my 9.5 inch or 22.4 centimeter. So also go ahead and place a pin like this. So what you're going to do, you're going to stitch from here where your 9.5 inches end or where your 22.4 centimeter end. You're going to take your dress to your sewing machine, stitch it from here all the way down. You do the same thing with the lining. So go ahead and top stitch. I have stitched the center back. I just turn it inside. I'll give it a nice press. The next thing that you have to do, you're going to install your zipper on the center back. So what you're going to do, you first open your zipper like this, and then turn the zipper like this. Take your dress, the center back, place it at the top of the zipper like this. Just go ahead and pin it all together. Go ahead and start pinning. I have pinned my zipper on one side of the dress. I just pin only this side. So before you pin it on the other side, I just want to show you how to make sure that your waistline are the same and they are matched together. What you're going to do, you zip your dress all the way like this, and then you take your marker and go ahead and take your marker to measure the waistline of the zipper. So this is the waistline right here. You just mark that, and then you come down to this side, you do the same thing. So this is the waistline. So what you're going to do, go ahead and open your zipper. So once you open your zipper like this, then turn your zipper like this. You're going to place it on the other side. So you can see this is my marker right here, my pink marker. Place it at the waistline. And then take your pin that in place. So you're just going to continue pinning all the way to the end. This is how it is. So before you pin it all the way to the end where your stitches end, this is where my stitches end. Before you pin it all the way to that point, what you're going to do, thread your needle. So I have already thread my needle. Use any color of thread to thread your needle. Just go ahead and use hand stitch to stitch the zipper on the dress. Once you've done that, then remove the pins. When the pins are on the way, it is very, very difficult and the zipper might shift down. So the best way, thread your needle, use hand stitch to stitch it in place, and then take it to your sewing machine and stitch your zipper on your dress. So go ahead and use hand stitch, and then we cannot take it to our sewing machine and top stitch. I have stitched my invisible zipper at the center back of the dress. You can see how it is. You just push your zipper inside. If you have a longer zipper like me, just take your scissors and cut out the excess. Cut a piece of fabric to cover the raw edges, or you can just top stitch 2 to 3 times to secure the zipper. So this is how it is once you have done stitching your invisible zipper at the center back. The next thing that you have to do is to zip your dress like this. This is how it is. You can see that the waistline are matched. So when you make your zipper like that and you place it first, use your marker to mark the waistline, the both zipper side. So when you pin it together and you use hand stitch to stitch your zipper, it looks very nice once you've done stitching your dress. So this is how it is right now. Go ahead and open your zipper all the way down. So we are going to use our lining to cover the raw edges of the zipper. What you're going to do, you just turn your lining like this, place it like this, go ahead and pin them all together. So you're pinning it like this. You see how it is, pin it like this all the way down to where the zipper is. Once you have done that, take it to your sewing machine, give it a top stitch all the way down. When you're stitching this time, you're going to use your normal zipper foot. So you're using this zipper foot to top stitch it all the way down when you're stitching your lining to cover the raw edges of your zipper. So go ahead and top stitch. I have used my lining to cover the raw edges of the invisible zipper. This is how it finally looks once you stitch it all around. All you have to do, turn it inside out, take it to your ironing board and give it a nice press. This is how it finally looks. If you want me to make a separate tutorial on how to stitch invisible zip on your dress, please make a comment down below and I will definitely show how you can stitch invisible zipper on your dress. I will take you step by step on how you can achieve a very good result. The next thing that you have to do, you're going to hem your dress. Take your dress to your sewing machine, fold it and then fold it again and get it a top stitch. You will also do the same thing with the lining. But if you're going to attach a lace to design your dress, so for me, I will stitch my lace on the lining, not on the made fabric. I'll stitch the lace on the lining all around, and then I will turn it over and then I will give it a top stitch all over again. So go ahead and hem your dress. Once you have done that, your dress is finally ready. This is the final look once you have done making your dress. I have stitched my lace at the bottom edge of the dress, and I also go ahead and hem the dress. This is the final look. Thank you all so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't. Make a comment down below if you have any questions, and you all should have a beautiful day. Bye.